The human race has traveled a long way. Since those remote ages when men fashioned their rude implements of flint and lived on the precarious spoils of hunting, leaving to their children for their only heritage a shelter beneath the rocks, some poor utensils and nature, vast, unknown, and terrific, with whom they had to fight for their wretched existence during the long succession of agitated ages which have elapsed since mankind has nevertheless amassed untold treasures. It has cleared the land, dried the marshes, hewn down forests, made roads, pierced mountains. It has been building, inventing, observing, reasoning. It has created a complex machinery, wrested her secrets from nature, and finally it pressed steam and electricity into its service. And the result is that now the child of the civilized man finds at its birth, ready for its use, an immense capital accumulated by those who have gone before him, and this capital enables man to acquire, merely by his own labor combined with the labor of others, riches surpassing the dreams of the fairy tales of the 1,001 Nights. The soil is cleared to a great extent, fit for the reception of the best seeds, ready to give a rich return for the skill and labor spent upon it, a return more than sufficient for all the wants of humanity. The methods of rational cultivation are known. On the wide prairies of America, each 100 men, with the aid of powerful machinery, can produce in a few months enough wheat to maintain 10,000 people for a whole year. And where man wishes to double his produce, to treble it, to multiply it 100-fold, he makes the soil, gives to each plant the requisite care, and thus obtains enormous returns. While the hunter of old had to scour 50 or 60 square miles to find food for his family, the civilized man supports his household with far less pain and far more certainty on 1,000th part of that space. Climate is no longer an obstacle. When the sun fails, man replaces it by artificial heat. And we see the coming of a time when artificial light also will be used to stimulate vegetation. Meanwhile, by the use of glass and hot water pipes, man renders a given space 10 and 50 times more productive than it was in its natural state. The prodigies accomplished in industry are still more striking. With the cooperation of those intelligent beings, modern machines themselves, the fruit of 3 or 4 generations of inventors, mostly unknown, 100 men manufacture now the stuff to provide 10,000 persons with clothing for 2 years in well-managed coal mines. The labor of 100 miners furnishes each year enough fuel to warm 10,000 families under an inclement sky, and we have lately witnessed the spectacle of wonderful cities springing up in a few months for international exhibitions without interrupting in the slightest degree the regular work of the nations.
Music licensing reimagined.
And if in manufactures as in agriculture, and as indeed through our whole social system, the labor, the discoveries, and the inventions of our ancestors profit chiefly the few, it is none the less certain that mankind in general, aided by the creatures of steel and iron which it already possesses, could already procure an existence of wealth and ease for every one of its members. Truly, we are rich, far richer than we think, rich in what we already possess, richer still in the possibilities of production of our actual mechanical outfit, richest of all in what we might win from our soil, from our manufactures, from our science, from our technical knowledge, were they but applied to bringing about the well-being of all. In our civilized societies, we are rich. Why, then, this misery around us? Why this painful and brutalizing work of the masses? Why this insecurity about tomorrow, even for the best paid worker, in the midst of the wealth inherited from yesterday? And despite the powerful means of production that would give everyone well-being in exchange. For a few hours of daily work, the socialists have said it and repeated it unwearyingly. Daily they reiterate it, demonstrating it by arguments taken from all the sciences. Why has everything necessary for production, the land, the mines, the machines, the communication routes, the food, the shelter, the education, the knowledge, has been monopolized by some? In the course of this long history of looting, exoduses, wars, ignorance and oppression in which humanity has lived, before learning to dominate the forces of nature, why do those same ones, sheltering themselves from alleged rights acquired in the past, today appropriate 2/3 of the product of human labor, squandering it in the most senseless and scandalous way? Why, having reduced the masses to a point at which they have not the means of subsistence for a month, or even for a week in advance, the few can allow the many to work, only on the condition of themselves receiving the lion's share? Why do they prevent him from producing what he needs, and force him to produce, not what is necessary for others, but what promises the greatest benefits to the harder? This is where all socialism lies.
Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io.